Good morning, everyone. Doesn't look much like morning outside. This is Thursday and we're having a really heavy rain right now and it's really dark. So we're going to see how this goes. I don't think there's any warnings out, but if I need to take cover, I might disappear. Okay, so I have been busy. I did make this shirt this week. Not going to do a lot of talking about it. It's from a picture I had seen a couple of years ago that Marcy Tilton had posted on her website, and I always wanted to kind of mimic it if I could. So I finally got around to that. So, what the video is really about today is about sewing rooms or sewing spaces and where do you find that space. A lot of people I've noticed lately have been asking that online, like Facebook and Instagram. Where do you put a sewing room? Where do you put sewing space? They're just asking a question they want to know. But in all honesty, I think you really have to think about what kind of sewing you like to do and how much space can you dedicate to it. Because when I had a family, and living in a smaller square footage than I do now, finding that space was really kind of hard till I got to thinking about it one day. So we're going to talk about my evolving sewing space or little setup, because sometimes you do have to just literally set it up somewhere. And most of the time that's a dining room table, which is not ideal because you need that table for meals. So what did I end up doing in my first house? It was the smallest house, 1,100 square feet. I'm going to show you what that looked like. Then we're going to talk about what happened when we moved to the second house. We had 1,500 square feet, and I literally had nothing. I mean, really, it was nothing. And then we moved here, and my sewing room has moved 3 times. So we'll talk about that evolvement and where I am today and show you exactly what I think a lot of people probably need to look at if they're in a really small space. In my first home, I started out actually doing the kitchen, the dining room table thing, setting it up, tearing it down. But then one day it dawned on me that my back porch, which was enclosed, I had a window here, here, and a window here and here. This was the back door to the yard. This doorway here was actually to the kitchen. It worked out really perfect because I had my washer and dryer here. This cabinet my mother had given me to store things in for sewing. I had this desk that I stored patterns in the drawers, and I could use it as a flat surface for like pinning. At that time, I only had one sewing machine, and it was stored in an old computer. You know, those tall computer cabinets that they had, and it had a shelf that would lay down. You know, it'd open and lay down like this. Um, I could pull my machine out on that and actually sew, and when I was done, I could tuck it all back in and keep it hidden. I had some storage on above it and I had some storage below it. But I could set my ironing board up right here. I could do laundry and sew at the same time. It was a perfect setup. Nice, small, and well-lit area. For what I was doing at the time, this was a perfect setup. And I had the smallest house at that time. It was just finding a place to put it. In my second house, which was about 1,500 square feet, we had a laundry room just off the kitchen. There's this hallway that was right here. This was actually the door into the laundry room. This is a different color because this is a closet. This closet actually opened to the bathroom, the master bath. So this space is not part of that laundry room. So I've got it a different color so you know that that's not space I could count on having. I have my washer and dryer side by side on this side because it's where the laundry room was set up. And then I had my desk that and a stand right here side by side. Literally, this space here was so small, even though I had a light, a window right here, so small and just so tiny that this was just storage for my sewing. When I actually wanted to sew, I was back to the dining room table. I could sew when my youngest was taking a nap. My older two were in school until I went to work. And then at that point, from that point on, like 1990 through the early 2000s, I really didn't sew that much. This, if it had just been for sewing, would have been okay. There was no place to put the washer and dryer in that house. So in my present house, at first I started out using my dining room table for only cutting. And in my bedroom, I would walk all the way to my bedroom just to press something. So I had to go around the corner and into the bedroom. But I had a cabinet here I'd purchased from Hobby Lobby that stored most of my sewing supplies. And I had a nice window here. This was the doorway or the door. You could close this off to the dining room. And then I had a desk that I inherited from my grandparents that I used to put my sewing machine on. And I had it facing this cabinet because on that cabinet, I had different pictures and things, different things for inspiration that I enjoyed looking at, and it made me not feel so closed in, even though it was a small room and I enjoyed the space. What you're seeing with those long pink pieces, this indicates those temporary walls. When we first bought the house, the guy that built the house told us, I put these temporary walls here because I thought you might eventually want to take this down and just treat it as one big room. So guess what happened when my son didn't come home anymore and we didn't need this as a bedroom and I'd taken it over as a sewing room? My husband decided one day he wanted that whole room for the dining room. So the walls came down, much to my dismay. I did not want to see that happen because our daughters were still living here and all this had to go away. The dining room table got centered into the room, and we had a couple of other pieces of furniture that we owned put in here. And the next thing I knew, I had a somewhat formal dining room again, the way the room was intended when it was built. And I was back to sewing on the dining room table, which was not ideal. And I had to find a way for me to find space somewhere else. And I was able to convert one bedroom into a guest quarters and one bedroom into sewing space or a sewing corner. So what I happened to have was, if you walk into this bedroom, I had a sewing station right here, a long table. And I would set my iron up in the other bedroom that was still being used by a daughter. And I would just have this sewing corner like area. That's what I went to. The spare bedroom still had a bed in it, but I just took a corner of that to use for my sewing space because it wasn't used all the time, and it could allow me to block that off if I needed to. So that I switched from to what I presently have. If all you have room for is a piece of furniture, but you want to be able to close things up, you might consider getting you an old wardrobe of some kind, entertainment center, something that's tall, but will enable you to put something that'll roll out toward you so that you can sit your machine on that movable desk. So I'm going to show you what I mean. And there's lots of videos about these types of conversions and how people use them. My doors open up on this wardrobe this way. Some just have one door and you have to have your desk come out this way, but it still works. I have a friend who did hers that way. Mine is like this. I have it open flat. I could put patterns and information on that cork board, and I have other things hanging over here. But what's important for you to see is I had this added, this desk. And There's two parts to it. There's the front part that comes out. There's a part that's piano hinged to the back. It goes all the way against the back, so the whole area in the closet, as well as this that sticks out, is my sewing space, my table. I just wanted you to see this. This is a great option if you don't need a lot of space. You could always have a piece of furniture, and there's where your sewing cabinet is. Last week, when I was getting ready to think about this video, I reached out to my friends in my American Sewing Guild group and I said, hey, would you all be willing to share pictures of your sewing room? I want to do a video on sewing rooms / spaces. And they all said yes. So I had to kind of remind them, because we are busy lives. And they said, let me clean my room. A little intro just to kind of set this up. What you're going to be seeing is some pictures and I'll talk about them, but I want to set up each one a little bit prior to showing each individual. So we have one person who has an attic space in her attic room. She's kind of a large attic room on the second floor of her house. Part of it's used for storage and part of it is her sewing room. And another person who has a basement, she has a sewing area in her basement that she uses. And the other three actually have bedrooms in their homes that they have designated just for sewing. So here we're going to take them one by one and talk about each one. Here in Sue Ellen's space, you can see where her sewing machine and serger are very close to each other, which enables her to just simply turn from one machine to the other quickly and continue to sew. Her pressing and cutting stations are nearby. Rhonda's space, you can see, is all close together, very compacted, which saves her steps and time as she's working on her projects. She has pressing, sewing, and ironing all very close together. This is Terry's space. Her sewing station is just all set up and ready for her to do some great embroidery work. And you see her threads hanging there, everything nice and neat. This is her serging table. It's not too far from her sewing place. And then she has her pressing area. But what I love most about her pressing area is she has the word sew just above the ironing board there to decorate her room. Kathy has her sewing machine and serger set on the same table with threads nearby. And as you can also see, she has a printer close by because she does a lot of quilting. Then her pressing station, it's very important for her to have that handy. And look at this closet. I mean, so well organized. And this is Pat's room. You see her Arrow furniture. She's got two machines, one sitting in the window back there. Her cutting table is right there behind her sewing machine. And she also has a nice area where she can sit and do some reading if she needs to. I hope this video provided you some information that might be valuable to you. Keeping in mind what kind of sewing you like to do, how much space you need in order to do that. If you need very little space, a corner in a room, a piece of furniture like I got that's converted into a sewing cabinet can be ideal. Even a closet, if you can salvage a closet and use it, attic spaces, basements, just look at all your options, think it through. You can do this and you can have you a sewing space too. Happy sewing, everybody.